Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, 3:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. A little side note, I tried to do the opening without the freaking early part. And you know how you get used to doing something and it just becomes a habit over the last week? And I tried to leave it out. And because I don't know if people like it, if they don't like it, if they really don't care, whatever. So I tried to leave it out this morning. It just sounded wrong. So fortunately, unfortunately, or otherwise, it's probably going to be in the videos from now on. I don't know. All right. Anyway, who cares? All right. I came across, okay, so usual morning, 2 a.m. I'm up. I'm going through all the news stories. For a good 20 minutes, I came across a story about Lauren Boebert screaming out while Biden is talking about his dead son. She screams out in the middle of the State of the Union address. I'm just going to leave that right there. I'm not even sure what to say about that. I'm still, I compared that to having lost Audrey. And I could imagine if I was talking about, I always use empathy. And I was thinking, what if I was talking about Audrey somewhere and somebody stood up and yelled something insane? How would I feel? And it's still almost too early for me to even talk about. I don't even know how I feel about that right now. Sad or angry or whatever. But anyway, I came across the video of a Texas man. Looks like me. He's probably in his mid to late 50s. Big paunch, big gut, white hair. He talks with a Texas twang. To me, I hate to use the word stereotypical, but to me, he looks like the stereotypical Trump supporter. Driving his pickup, his big black pickup with his NRA sticker and Trump 2024 and the old F Biden and all that's that's him right there. Except there's a catch here. I'll put the video down below. He's in the Ukraine. He's in the Ukraine right now, and not with the Ukrainians. He's with the Russian soldiers. He's been with the Russian soldiers since 2015 when Obama. He's some kind of missing. You know how there was a young kid that got involved with ISIS. I think he left Seattle back, in the last, I don't know, about 8 years ago. Remember that? The American Taliban kid or something. There's a couple of them. Here you go. Here's a Russian Texan. I don't know what to call him. So, okay, you got to see this video. So he's with the Russian soldiers. Like I said, he went over there to fight when Putin took over Crimea, because he identifies with Putin. I'm going to get into more in this in a second. And, he's with the good, strong, they're good, they're well trained. He's talking about the Russian soldiers now. This is just in the last couple of days. The Russian soldiers are filming this. They're all talking in Russian. He's a big star in Russia right now. A Texan. He can't even really speak Russian. But he's been there for 7 years. All right, so he's on the front in the Ukraine right now, making propaganda videos. Here's the part that killed me. So he says that only 10% of the Russian forces are in the front line right now. In other words, there's another 90% are coming to kick some. He used another word, but the rest of them are coming now. This is the part that just blew my mind. So he says, we're coming to free and liberate the good people of the Ukraine, and for the bad people, and then he kicks the ground. We're gonna kick their butts. We're gonna drop the hammer. If that's not a Trumpian term, drop the hammer. You can always tell because it's over macho. It's got phallic symbolism in it for all the insecure Trump support. Drop the hammer. If drop the hammer is one of the most Trumpian phrases I ever heard. So anyway, he's with the Russian soldiers fighting against the Ukrainians to liberate and save them. It's funny because I literally have seen millions and millions of Ukrainians fleeing and fighting. Pretty much every Ukrainian male picking up a gun to fight for their country. And this guy is saying, and he's using the term, I guess this is a big term in Russia now, to denazify. Coming to kick the N-word, the four-letter N-word, to kick them out. And because this is the story. This is the propaganda. I'm gonna have an article down below. I read 2 articles on this guy. The second, I'll put this other article down below. It's Texan Weekly, I think it's called, and it's a long article. It describes everything about this guy down to probably the color of his underwear. It's a long article. It's long enough to almost be a book, and it describes how he was a pot salesman, how he ran drugs, how he was an arborist. He was making $1,000 back in $1,000 a week back in 2007, which is incredible money. I was making good money as a Teamster back then, and I wasn't even making that kind of money. And he went down, oh, poor guy. He went down to 700 every 6 days instead of 1,000 every 5 days. Oh, how could he ever survive on that back in 2007? So this is what I talked about before. It's about this middle class white guys that feel that they've lost power and status and financial strength, and so or it's just a plain old midlife crisis. I don't know. So the two articles on this misplaced, confused Texan over fighting with the Russians. The 2 articles will be down below and the video. As I watched this, I started thinking about the future, and I want to make a couple guesses what I think is going to happen. As you read now, of course, we all know there's a bad feeling what's going to happen here. They're going to increase the shelling. They're going to increase. Russia's going to increase. They're not going to back off. They're going to increase everything, and I think the Ukraine's in for. I think it's going to be a bloody spring and summer, and I think the Russians are going to bring a lot of their forces to bear, and unfortunately, in the future, it might look like they have the upper hand. And I started thinking about this. Russia is pretty much Dreamland for Trump supporters. It's a pseudo-democracy. It's an autocracy, an authoritarian leader that pretends to have a democracy. This guy, what's his name? Russell Bonner Bentley, that's his name, the misplaced Texan. He talks about how he wants to bring communism and God to the Ukraine and to America and denazify it. He's got this idea in his head about communism and Lenin and God with God. He wants to have communism except with God, and Russia is just a place. It's the dreamland for Trump supporters, where minorities are stomped down. The transphobic people, the people against all sorts of LGBTQ community rights, minority rights, like everything that happened with Black Lives Matter. You would have seen. I think in Russia you would have seen you probably would have never even seen that because they would have never allowed it to happen. Russia is dreamland for the Trump supporters. And I think as this progresses, because you see the Trump supporters now kind of backing off, like with the State of the Union address last night. And, it looks pretty much right now that the whole United States is behind the Ukrainian people. Zelensky looks like, the freedom fighter, like I talked about, give me liberty or give me death and all that. And I think the Trump supporters, I thought about this, and I'm thinking, they haven't switched sides. They're just acting like typical cowards and bullies do. They're backing off and they're zipping it up and being a little quiet because they know their view is frowned upon. It's not the popular view, so they're just backing off. They're kind of in camouflage. And I really get the feeling that as this goes on, as Russia might, I'm not saying this, I'm not hoping for this, but if and when Russia starts to get kind of an upper hand or gets more bloody in the Ukraine, I think we're going to see people like Tucker Carlson, people like Lauren Boebert, and all the rest of them, all these other, DeSantis, and all these other Trump supporters come out more and switch back to supporting Putin and supporting Russia back when they appear to have the upper hand again. Because that's what these people do, whichever way the wind blows. And like I said, I really believe, Russia is their ideal state that they'd like to see America in, a pretend democracy with an authoritarian leader. That's why Trump loved Putin. He wants, it's a perfect place for him where he stays in power forever what he say goes. Nobody could disagree with him. There is no Black Lives Matter. There's no trans rights. There's no rights for any minorities, and that's their ideal place. And I think you'll see this more, unfortunately, as time goes on and it gets a little more heated in Ukraine. I think a lot of Republicans, a lot of Trump supporters are going to be talking up this guy, Russell Bonner Bentley, this Texan. All right, the video's down below. You guys have a great Wednesday. I'll be back later with another video.